Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Politics Lab on YouTube. My name is Bill Muck. I'm a professor of political science at North Central College, and I'm joined, as always, by Phil Barker, professor of political science at Keene State College. Phil, how you doing?
I'm good, Bill. How are you?
I'm doing great. We're here for a quick 5 minutes on Trump's tax returns. So we learned New York Times had a blockbuster story yesterday. They've gotten their hands on multiple years of his tax returns. Turns out in 2016, he paid $750 in taxes, and he paid the same amount in 2017. And something like 10 out of 15 years, he didn't pay any taxes. So, all right, Phil, 5 minutes, big deal, little deal, no deal. What do you think?
So as with so many of the ones we've talked about, I think it is a big deal for some of the reasons we can talk about in a minute, but I'm not sure that it's a big deal electorally or politically. So one of the things that that I think we could talk about a little bit is whether or not this is already baked in. I mean, he's been refusing to release, because he has his audit or whatever, but he's been refusing to release his taxes for 4 years now. And so I think everybody or most people just assume that it's because he's, covering something up. So it'll be interesting to see how much of an impact there is to this. But on the facts alone, this is a big deal. If you look back at, the previous presidents who have all released their tax returns, they're paying tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes each year, and Trump's paying $750. So I mean, part of it is it is this blow against this kind of myth that he's created about being, this incredibly successful businessman. Part of it is the story of the American tax system that lets people get away with this by writing off all of this. And part of it is, I think, that the fact that, there's a lot of stuff that's kind of not the headline that's built into the story about, paying Ivanka consulting fees or whatever, but the fact that he has like $400 million in debt coming due during what may be his second term, that part I think is as significant, if not more significant, than some of the other stuff. What's your take on all of this?
Yeah, well, right. And if he wasn't president, he wouldn't get a security clearance. If you owe hundreds of millions of dollars, that's like a deal breaker. You're not allowed to see state secrets anymore. Not because he's president, that doesn't matter. You brought up other presidents as a comparative point. Yeah, Reagan in his first year in office, I think paid $165,000 in taxes. Bush's were well over $100,000 or $200,000. Obama paid $1.8 million in taxes. I mean, by comparison, it's almost comical that he paid $750. But you're right. There are serious security concerns about that. Also, what is motivating his decision making, right? So we've got COVID going on. He's been trying to open up the economy. Is he doing that because he really thinks it's in the country's interest? Or is he doing it because he's got $420 million of debt coming and he's got to start generating revenue? Now, we don't know one way or the other, but you shouldn't, as a president, you shouldn't have to be worrying about those factors.
Yeah, I think that aspect is the part that I think is really kind of the bigger story. Because, I mean, what you can kind of piece together is a man who, he inherited a lot of money from his dad, lost most of that, and then he had this big boom with The Apprentice, and part of the kind of piecing it together shows that money is drying up and going away as well. And so, the part of the speculation, a lot of the reporting early on was that the only reason he ran for president was because he needed a boost to his name recognition and never actually expected to win. And this kind of fits with that, in that, he needed this financial boost, and so he's gotten it in some ways, but it does raise real concerns about, how susceptible, who does he owe the money to? I mean, you owe like $300 million, I think, but you've been pretty open about who you owe it to, various mob figures and whatnot.
Right. And a few Russians too, that's one connection I have with Trump. No, and the other angle to this, I'm curious, so you mentioned it probably won't matter politically. And I think that's true. If all the other incidents that came before didn't change the needle, this probably won't either. Although there's got to be some shame factor when you think about his appeal is to blue collar voters, rural America, these people who pay taxes. They were
Right.
talking about, servers who pay a much higher percentage of their taxes or amount of taxes than the president here. I kept wondering, like, why was he so afraid to release these? And obviously he didn't release them. They were leaked to the New York Times. We kind of knew this, right? We knew that he was working the system. Maybe we didn't know the degree to which he was working the system. Maybe we fully didn't appreciate how bad of a business person he was. With the amount of debt he has, even though he's generating revenue, he's Phil, he's not very good at business. And he may also be a cheat a little bit too. I mean, it does suggest that his very, very aggressive interpretation of of expenses is deeply problematic. I mean, $700,000 or no, $70,000 for hair, right? You know, hair treatments.
I didn't realize you could write off your haircuts on your taxes.
I don't think so. Well, remember, who was it? Was it either John Kerry or somebody who'd spent a lot of money on a haircut, or John Edwards? It was a huge deal. Yeah. It wasn't $70,000 worth of a big deal.
Yeah, I think you're right. If he had after the election released his tax returns, you would figure that, you know, it would have been some buzz, but it would be, you know, a non-issue by now. But I don't know what it is that he's covering. There's our 5-minute timer.
We have a much improved bell
sound effect. Yeah, I mean, it feels like this is something that is going to, the New York Times even said, this is going to continue. There's going to be more stories in the few weeks up to the election. And I don't know that it will make necessarily a huge change, but he desperately needs, I mean, he continues to trail in the polls by 8 to 10 points. He needs to pick up votes. And this isn't going to, I don't know that it'll cost him votes that he already has. It might cost him a few, but there's not going to be a whole lot of people out there who are going to think, oh, look at this great story about how the president, isn't actually a self-made billionaire. And he's like, milking the system and paying $750 in taxes. It's not going to win over people. It's not good timing for him.
That's right. And especially with the debate coming up. So now, I mean, he was hoping with the debate coming up tomorrow on Tuesday that he could talk about the Supreme Court. And now he's going to have to talk about his taxes. I'm guessing this will be a big part of it. And again, for him, who's so prideful about his success, to have to say that he was a lousy business person and lost tons and tons of money and still owes money all over the place. I mean, he can call it fake news, but he could dispel all of this by just releasing his 2016 tax returns, or at least a page of it to show that it's not true. And he won't do that, which suggests that it is. So, it's going to linger.
His brand is his name, right? I mean, that's what it is. And so part of it is just the image. And so I think that it's going to be, it's not going to be good for him politically. I mean, none of this is going to be good for him business wise. He desperately needs to win this election, I think, for a number of reasons, for like potentially criminal reasons, for financial reasons. Yeah, it's not a great place to have a presidential candidate coming from, I don't think.
Each week there's a new story. So, well, we should probably wrap up on that point. So if you're enjoying these, please subscribe and tune in on Wednesdays for the podcast, The Politics Lab. Fun talking with you, Phil.
Bye, Bill.